Food is arguably the most important resource in Age of Empires 2, but all we see in game is just a single set of numbers. Throughout this series, we will be diving in to see exactly what each civilization prepared and ate, and how well I can recreate these recipes. This is Meals of Empires. Today's civilization is the Malay, so there's a few different staple ingredients that kind of form a base for where we're going with this cuisine. We have rice, of course. Throughout Asia, you had rice being spread in the antiquity before the period of Age of Empires 2, which is about 500 to 1500. So other than rice, you also had taro, which is what I'm holding in my hand. Taro has the rings often around the outside of the skin, which are the old leaf scars that have since removed. Because taro, what it is, what you'd call a tuber, is actually the stem of the plant that has swollen with all of the, as a storage organ, more or less. There's also yams that are a staple crop, but they're not to be confused with the yams or sweet potatoes that come from South America. So what I'm referring to in Southeast Asia is from the genus Dioscorea. So these are yams that are often purple. I wasn't able to pick up any for this recipe, so we're sticking to taro and a food that has almost no nutritional value outside of carbohydrates, which is sago. You rip open the sago palm, you take the pith inside of the trunk of the tree, you extract that from the fiber. So you're extracting all the starch from the fiber inside, generally just using water, and then you dehydrate it, and you end up with little pearls or little flakes, depending on the technique. And so these are being rehydrated and then can be used just as carbohydrates, just straight calories for the food. So we're going to be trying out the sago pearls and the taro in a curry along with some mushrooms. All right, so to start off, I have some water that's already started boiling, and what we're starting with is the taro. Now, taro has calcium oxalate inside of it, which is very irritating to skin, but maybe doesn't affect everyone. So just handling it can make your hands itchy. The way to avoid this is either wear gloves or put oil on your hands. And then once it gets boiled for about 5 minutes, those calcium oxalate crystals break down and then are no longer going to bother you. What we're going to do is not just parboil it or blanch it for 5 minutes, but we're just going to keep cooking it, and eventually it'll be included into the curry. But we really want to break this down as much as possible. So to start off, I'm going to cover my left hand in coconut oil. That will be our native oil for today. And so hopefully I won't have any issues with handling it. It's once you peel it that the calcium oxalate comes in contact with your hands. So now that we got the taro started, we're going to start on the Urap Salad. Urap, I think is the pronunciation. I'll start off with the bitter melon, and bitter melon is very much like its namesake. It's simply bitter. A few weeks ago, I was able to find fresh bitter melon at my local Asian grocer, but now I was only able to find them frozen in slices. Slices is how we want them. And to start off, I am going to give a taste test. Yeah, it's very bitter. I was talking about oxalates, and this is something that tastes like it has oxalates in it, because that's the kind of bitterness, but it's a little bit sour too that I associate with this. This smells worse than it actually tastes. But to reduce the bitterness in the bitter melon, we are going to salt it, which is supposedly supposed to reduce it. So we're going to salt it and allow some of these liquids that have the bitter compounds to be excreted from the solids. And then we're going to rinse it and then blanch it on top of the taro. The taro is unrelated. It's just going to allow us to make use of space and heat as efficiently as possible. Kengkun anchoy. This is our water spinach, or sometimes called Chinese spinach. And it doesn't have any strong flavors whatsoever, which I think is why people like it as a vegetable. It just kind of picks up whatever flavors are included with it. So in this case, it's going to be the dressing that we're putting on the salad. So the water spinach is interesting. It very much grows right on the water. And the way it does that is with these hollow stems. It's able to just sit on top of the water and stay out of the darkness, so to speak. It stays in the light. The only issue is it's very good at picking up heavy metals, So what you really want to take is just these, the pedicel, I think that's the right botany term, the part that's breaking off from the leaf from the branch, because that's going to have fewer heavy metals or any parts that you don't want to be ingesting. Now, the water spinach does float in its native habitat, but I'm not sure if it's going to float right now. So if I can just blanch this without it going under, so I can retrieve it easily. That looks good. The salt has penetrated into the bitter melon slices, so it will continue to taste better. And these guys can hopefully just float like that. It almost looks like I'm trying to make some impromptu aquarium with some thermophilic fish. So we have the salad started, the urap, and now we can start working on the spices. The spice mix is going to be included in both the curry and as the salad dressing. It includes most of the same ingredients. The only difference is the coconut meal that is going to go on the salad dressing on the urap. But you can see how many different ingredients are part of this spice mix. So you can just imagine how many different flavors are going to be included in here. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to start by cutting up the shallots and the garlic and just getting the skins off. And then we can get down to crushing everything. Almost everything here is being crushed in a mortar and pestle. Traditional Malay mortar and pestles are much bigger so that you can crush a bunch of ingredients at a time. But similar to how we did it for the hummus, we're just going to crush a little bit at a time. All right, there's the shallot. Next up is the galangal. So there are 4 different species of galangal, and this is the greater galangal. The species is Alpinia galanga, described by Linnaeus. That's why there's that little L, capital L at the end there. But it has very much like a gingery smell, and it's a close cousin to ginger, but it smells fresher, if that makes sense. Almost more sterile than like ginger does. Ginger has like maybe more complex flavors. This is quite a bit spicier, I would say, than ginger as well. But it's a common component in a lot of Thai curries and such. And in this one, we're just going to be including it in our spice mix at the start. For the other spices, I'm going to be using about 2 tablespoons worth, which might seem like quite a lot, but this mix is being split up between 2 different dishes. So I think that's about appropriate. And then the black pepper is one I should have done ahead of time because it's going to take a while for me to grind it all up. So you might be familiar with Thai chilies. They're just, about the size of your thumb, very brightly red. But that is native to South America. So what chilies were being used back before the Columbian Exchange? Well, probably Piper retrofractum. The Malay language kind of allows us to understand that the word for pepper was also being used for Piper retrofractum, which is long pepper and is a cousin to the black pepper or green pepper that we demonstrated with the Burmese. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any more green pepper for this recipe, so instead I'm just going to be using a lot of grated black pepper to kind of balance out what would be a chili pepper in a lot of these modern recipes, but wasn't available in the past. Let's continue with the different ingredients. Typically, if you had a long shoot of lemongrass, you would stick that into your mortar and pestle, but since I can't fit that into my mortar and pestle and I already had ground lemongrass, that's what I'm going to use instead. And then you would cook it, and while most of these ingredients are staying and are being eaten, the lemongrass would be pulled out. It would just be providing a little bit of flavor temporarily. So I'm going to sprinkle on the lemongrass to an amount relative to what I think the stick would provide. I don't want to go too overboard. This is primarily a spice mix for savory ingredients. So the sugar is just there to provide a little bit of a backing, a little bit of intrigue into the overall flavors that are present. And then what am I missing? The tamarind paste and then the lime leaves. Lime leaves are just going to be put on when we're putting things to cook. We're not necessarily including them into this mix and trying to crush them. They're going to be removed before we start eating, very much like if we had the lemongrass stock. So for my rice, I'm just using basmati rice. This is what I already have. Jasmine rice is fairly similar, and most of the flavor isn't going to be coming from the rice. Most of the aroma isn't going to be coming from the rice, but from the pandan leaves. And so this is a very aromatic smelling leaf, but it's also kind of subtle. Almost like when you bring flowers home and then the smell of the flowers just permeates. So we're going to put one or two of these leaves in with our rice when we're cooking it. And of course the rice is being cooked in coconut milk because we want all of that wonderful coconut richness to flavor our rice as well. And we're going to also add a touch of turmeric and a touch of coriander. We could also add a little bit of nutmeg or cloves just to represent how those were the first spices that were being sent from the archipelago to the Middle East and Europe. But I think this is good. I mean, it's going to be so rich already with all the coconuts. We'll start with the coconut shreds. We're doing about 400 grams of the desiccated coconut shreds, and 100 grams or 100 milliliters of the coconut milk to kind of rehydrate our coconut shreds. And so this coconut will slowly start roasting, and that is the main component of our dressing. The rest is just the spiciness that's being added to it. It's like trying to make a roux, except all of the components are the same ingredient or from the same source. And let's take about half of our spice mix and mix it in with the coconut. The other half is going to be separate from the coconut, and that will be the start of our curry. So there we go. We got our salad of bitter melon, water spinach, and soon to be mung bean sprouts. So here are the mung bean sprouts that I started a few days ago, but of course I didn't give myself enough time to really get them to sprout. And because the temperatures have dropped here in the Netherlands as we're moving from summer to fall, they didn't quite have the best temperatures. So I'll wait for these to fully sprout, and then I'll come back to them later in the week. These are full-size mung bean sprouts. You can see they're pretty long, like 3 to 4 inches. And this is what I'll be putting in today's salad. And we'll take out our leaves. Now that they've served their purpose in providing a little bit of citrusy aroma to our meal, this isn't as toasted as it could be. None of the spices are like overpowering. I think we did a good job with the ratios. I think the spices are going to come out more in the curry. So there's our taro. You can see it's very much broken down into a starchy mix, but we're going to drain all that water. So compared to the taro that we started with, you can see this is much closer to like mashed potatoes. And what this actually tastes like, which you might not believe because it's coming from a vegan, but what this tastes like is white fish. All right, so I got the coconut oil at the bottom of this, and I'm going to take the other half of our spice mix along with the lime leaf and get that roasting. So mushrooms are quite common in a lot of Asian cooking. I mean, a lot of cooking from around the world, to be honest, but there is quite a variety in tropical areas as well. These are oyster mushrooms. They're king oyster mushrooms, which would be available in Southeast Asia. And I'm just going to chop them up into little slices. The good thing with mushrooms is they provide a lot of nutrients for vegans that aren't really available in plants. But another great thing about mushrooms is you can't really overcook them. They don't like turn into mush like plants will do as you continue to cook them. So something like a curry, which might be cooked for an exceptionally long amount of time, your mushrooms will still have a nice consistency. I'm going to take the lime leaves out now just because they're accessible. All right, let's add some coconut milk in. Let's add our taro in now and let it start absorbing all the spice. So I saw a trend on YouTube of people trying out the rujak or rojak sauce with a bunch of raw ingredients, specifically banana or Penang kept coming up repeatedly. So we're going to make the sauce and try out some raw vegetables without really including that in the full recipe. There's our tamarind, yeah. And we'll do about equal parts sugar, because this is a sauce that often goes on fruit, so having it be quite sweet isn't too much of a concern. And we're going to try to just add a ton of black pepper. The other ingredients that are commonly included are, of course, Thai chilies or bird's eye chilies, which would not have been accessible. And as I mentioned earlier, the long pepper would have been what was used previously to long chilies in a lot of these recipes. And then shrimp paste is often used, but of course not vegan, and I don't have a suitable replacement. So these sago pearls have been soaking for about 2 to 4 hours. I started at 2 hours before the stream, and now we're about 2 hours in. So I've just allowed these to rehydrate, so they're not just like polystyrene, is how Abby described this earlier. Compared to the other staple crops like the taro and the yams, which aren't included here but were another staple crop, the sago provides almost no nutrients outside of carbohydrates. It's just pure starch. So not ideal for like overall health, but just as a staple, like literally just to provide you calories, it's pretty decent. We're gonna do the old-fashioned, take a bowl to ladle into another bowl. There we go. So yeah, this first bowl that's off camera is our rujak or rojak sauce, though it just is tamarind, sugar, and black pepper. This isn't something you're going to be trying. This is what I put my raw fruits in, including the raw banana in. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that'll just be a viral video. Who knows? It seems to work for the Indonesians. What we're actually trying is this salad that's called urap. And it's unconventional compared to what we're used to in Western salads. Our dressing is coconut and the spice mix. Mm-hmm. Dressing, you know, we're used to like a vinaigrette or something. Mm-hmm. The main components of the salad are water spinach. That's the dark green leafy one that looks like spinach. Mm-hmm. We have bitter, let's see if I can find it. This lighter green is bitter melon. It is bitter, so just a warning there. Just prepare yourself. And then the white, long, stringy things are mung bean sprouts, and they should have a neutral flavor. And of course, you can smell all the aromas coming off of it, and it's pretty fantastic.
It smells like Penang.
Penang, okay. Then we have...
Or coconut, I guess.
Yeah, coconut is what I was going to say. We have our rice, aka Nasi Lemak. Nasi is the term for rice, and lemak, I can't remember. It might be coconut. But yeah, it's pretty simple. It's rice that's cooked in coconut instead of water. And then we have our curry that's also cooked in coconut. This includes some flavors from Penang. The primary components in it, other than the same spice mix that we have here with the coconut and the salad, this spice mix is on taro, which is a starchy root. And then we have the sago pearls, which are those little styrofoamy looking pearls that have been rehydrated and should just taste like starch. You can kind of see the little pearls that are almost seared through.
What are the chunks?
And the chunks are the taro.
Okay.
Or no, sorry, the chunks that we actually see are mushroom. Oh. Oyster mushrooms.
Okay.
The taro kind of fell apart. You might feel it. It's more like mashed potatoes at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, the rice is probably the safest bet.
I'm scared of everything else.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of boring.
Okay. I mean, it is plain rice that you would include.
Taste the coconut.
Mm-hmm. Is it light? Like you smell it stronger than you taste it, you think? Yeah.
I'll get a little piece of each thing. Can't believe you're making me eat this. Very odd.
Would you say it's different than any other salad you've ever had?
Uh-huh. You mean you haven't tried it?
Mm-mm.
You're giving it to me without even trying it?
Mm-mm.
What if it's poisoned?
I trusted it, and I did so much research today, I knew there wasn't any poison. I knew what was in here that was a little bit risky. Did you know that starfruit can actually cause issues if you're familiar with starfruit? Okay. But for people with renal issues, avoid starfruit. Or also don't eat starfruit on an empty stomach. That includes the juice. Last thing to try, the curry.
Am I gonna like this? Have you even tried it?
Yes, I did try the curry because I want to make sure it was salted properly.
Again, it's like kind of bland.
You think it's bland? Okay.
I taste the mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I don't taste the little styrofoam balls.
Okay. I don't think they have a taste. They're purely carbohydrates.
They're odd.
Yeah.
I feel it's like boba.
Oh, okay.
But tiny.
Yeah. They're like used similarly in cuisine because boba is tapioca, I believe. Mm-hmm. And this is similar, just carbohydrates. There's nothing else to it. Provides you no other nutrients. Hit me.
I really don't know how to rate execution.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like this salad is so weird. I don't know if you did it right. I mean, can I see pictures of like what it's supposed to look like?
Sure. I'll put this image. This is straight from Wikipedia. I'll put this image in the edited video.
Is that like green onion though?
I don't think there's any green onion. I think
Okay.
the lighter green one is
Yeah.
the bitter melon. The darker green is the water spinach. I don't know what these like pink looking ones might be the mung bean sprouts.
Yeah.
And we see the red chilies that are in there.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's definitely more coconut in mine because I figured my girlfriend's gonna like it. While we let Abby think about what she's gonna rate these.
6.
While we let Abby think about what she's gonna rate these.
6 and 2.
People would just eat raw stuff and just dip it into the sauce.
6 for execution. That's this. 6. And 2 for should you serve this to your girlfriend?
I think that's fair. I'm not sure about the execution.
No, how about 3? 3 for should you serve this to your girlfriend?
Because you'll eat the rice?
Because I would eat it like I'll have a spoonful of it if it's like the only thing I had to eat in the house.
Okay.
Like I would eat it probably.
So you like this less than like plain white rice? Or is it because there's...
Well, I do like plain white rice.
Yeah.
I feel like you could add things to that.
Like spice it up more.
Good.
Other than just the coconut milk.
Vegetables that are edible.
Well, that's what the curry's for.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't like the curry.
Weird.
You don't like the curry. Execution, you're giving me?
6.
Okay. And should you serve this to your girlfriend?
3.
Okay. This is the first time where I actually disagree with Abby's rating.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. I mean, the rating sticks, but I'm just going to give my feedback. I think the curry is really good. The styrofoam balls, aka the sago pearls, don't bother me. The taro does give quite a bit of a starchy taste to it, and the taste isn't strong at all. The taste is definitely dominated by the coconut. You get a tiny bit of umami from the oyster mushrooms. You're right, the rice isn't as interesting as I thought it was going to be. Like if you were just going to have the plain white rice with a coconut curry, you'd get the same effect of cooking the rice in coconut, except it's considerably more expensive to use coconut milk to cook rice than water. So we have a fun last little addition to the stream. Here we have Cavendish bananas. These are what bananas in the West we're used to eating nowadays until some sort of fungus comes and decimates all of the bananas because they're sterile. They don't produce any seeds, so you just have to reproduce them with the plant tissue itself. And so you don't really have any mutations. You don't have any good way of adapting the bananas. The fungus keeps adapting, but the bananas don't. So eventually the fungus wins. Here are some little baby bananas. And what I saw a lot of people on YouTube in videos and in shorts do is they take their raw bananas and they just peel off the ends. This is a sweet banana versus like a plantain or something. And they would just dip it into their sauce. Except their sauce was very spicy. And mine is just kind of sweet and sour with the tamarind. That's actually pretty good. A little bit fibrous. So they do tell you to soak the bananas in water to get some of the sap out first, but because I cut off the ends, I think I'm okay. If you're more familiar with Malay cuisine than I am, feel free to let me know some feedback in the comments. Next week we are off because we got other stuff going on the weekend. The following week we'll be back with the Berbers and we'll be tasting out our preserved lemons.